Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're really excited to have you joining us this morning. We've got a very fun show in store for you today. It's going to be both educational and very exciting. I can assure you, even without the show having started yet. We're going to be joined later on by Rob Campbell and Don Whitaker from Castle Hill Cidery, as well as after that, Michael LeMon, the bar manager at the Alley Light. So it's going to be a really fun show for you today that we have in store. As always, we are presented by Emergent Financial Services. We are powered by CVille Picnic, by Vitae Spirits, by Cristel Noel State Farm Agency, and by GBS Financial Services, as well as, of course, partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. So we have a lot in store for you today. We are going to start with something a little serious, because I'm sure for those of you who watch the I Love CVille show here on the I Love CVille Network, yesterday, Jerry did have on our friend Andre Xavier, who has come on the show before. And one of the things we're doing, of course, is we want to make sure people know that his wife, of course, Charlie Ann, had a very tragic accident. And they are still running a GoFundMe, because it's going to be a lot of medical expenses that are going to be in place for her. And so you can keep in touch with what is going on with her. There is a Facebook group where you can support Charlie Ann and keep with that, as well as Nick is going to be putting into all our feeds today, especially the Alex Urpí feed if you're watching this on my personal Facebook, on Today Mañana, on I Love CVille, on Jerry Miller's Facebook page. You'll see right in the comment section a link to the GoFundMe where you can help support this was going to be a long journey, so our hearts still go out with them. They could definitely use your prayers and your support as she battles through to recover from this fire accident. And so that's what we definitely wanted to make sure people knew about that, especially since Jerry had him on I Love CVille yesterday to talk about it. And of course, we also have some sponsor news for you. We were really excited to see that CVille Picnic, our newest sponsor, did a beautiful photo shoot. There was a proposal over the weekend that's just Stephanie Devada at CVille Picnic sets up everything. So there's a picnic there, and so it makes it easy for the bride to be. Makes it easy for the guy. He doesn't have to set up anything. He takes his girlfriend out on a picnic.
He's nervous as it is.
And then, he only has to think about one thing. Because he takes her out on a picnic. It's all set up by Stephanie Devada and CVille Picnic. It's all ready to go in a beautiful spot. And he just has to pop the question. And Lily DeRay, who has been on the show before, was there to take the photography. She was doing the photography work. So some two Today Mañana connections working together.
Perfect.
And making it a special day for some happy couple. As well as Vitae Spirits has some awesome news. They're going to be now on tipsy.com, tipxy.com. You can purchase Vitae Spirits and send it to 38 states. So if you're thinking of a gift for a holiday,
tipsy, that's a good.
Tipsy with an S, I guess. So if you're thinking of a special gift for someone, you want to send them the conifer spirit that basically tastes like Christmas trees.
Yes.
Or you want to send them the toffee liqueur that we had on with him. There's a lot of options, and now it can be sent to 38 different states. You can get it as a gift.
Fantastic.
So that was exciting news.
Those are states without the ABC.
I guess no. Virginia's one of them. So I guess some states with ABC where the state run, you can still order it from there.
Yeah.
So I think you have a lot of options. Your potential gift list for the holidays just got larger to work with. And so that's some of the sponsor news we have for you. You know, we always like to keep up with the exciting things that are going on with our partners.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's about. The growth of Charlottesville and all the wonderful businesses that we have
everybody,
here.
Everybody, the artists, exactly.
Exactly. And I know one of the things you've been thinking about has been just the ways that we can continue to support places when so many of the things we like to purchase and we need are becoming a little bit more expensive. So I know it's been on your mind, the topic, and I talked a little bit about with Jerry on the I Love CVille show on Tuesday as well.
Exactly.
So I know, go ahead and let us know a little bit of what's been on in Xavier's mind.
So every Tuesday we do our Tuesday tips, right? And obviously it's investment tips or how to invest to a certain respect or ideas. And I thought it was just apropos the fact that inflation is running so high, and when we do financial plans for our clients, and whether it be a retirement plan or a financial plan, one of the key elements to that plan is not only what the expected return is on their investments, but what the inflation rate is going to be. And historically, most people like to, most of these models that people use, they use one inflation rate. They say, what's the historical inflation rate? And the historical inflation rate is somewhere between 2.5% and 3%, right? Mm-hmm. But anybody who's as old as I am recognizes that it's just the average doesn't really work that well, because if you lived in the 70s, inflation was at 14%, and then from 14% it went down to 7%. Everybody was delighted, right? Now we're here at inflation rates are about 6%, and we're screaming for good reason, right? Because inflation shouldn't be that high. But when you look at a financial plan, the most important thing is, how's my money going to grow? How much money am I going to have when I retire? Or if you're already retired, how long will that money last? And so it's important to introduce a level of inflation that can change, right? So in other words, what's the inflation today? What's it going to be for the next few years? And can we bump that up and see what the plan is going to look like? And just to give you an idea, if you take a look at inflation, let's say we're running around about 6% inflation rate right now, and the historical, let's say, was 3%. If you just use 3% to say, well, listen, over time it's going to be 3%, so that's fine, just use that, right? Versus saying, listen, over the next 2 years, maybe we'll get a 6% inflation rate, or maybe in the next 3 years. The difference between those two, right, in a financial plan, meaning retirement, is about you take 2 to 3 years off your longevity. In other words, longevity means how long will your money last. That's a lot.
You could go from 98, my money's going to last till age 98, to suddenly it's only going to last till
to 95, or even 90 to 87,
90 to
whatever
87.
it may be. And the second thing, from regard to savings, it could be like in a $500,000 portfolio, right? It's a difference of about $90,000 to $100,000. Right? That's a lot. I mean, that's just a lot. So I tell people, when you talk to your financial advisor and they're running these type of plans, make sure they introduce the impact of inflation today. And I know we do that a lot. What we say is, sure, inflation may be low today, and this was 2 years ago, right?
This was when it was
what
low.
What happens if it spikes up, right? And it's perfect, right? And in this case, it's the other way. Listen, we have it. I mean, let's be serious. Coming into this year, right, inflation was starting to pop up, right? And I think most people expected that, because we went through, well, let's face it,
Everything
we went
was
through
shut down
2020 was shut
basically.
down.
And
I
so
mean,
things
gas
are gonna be more
prices are
expensive.
like, we're $1. We knew they weren't going to stay there, right? So you're going to have a pop of inflation. But we're actually living in a situation where you have the supply chain issues, coronavirus issues, right? You still basically have a Federal Reserve that is pumping money into the system, right? And you have an administration that's looking to spend, do another $3.5 trillion for stimulus. Every single
puts
one
more
of
money
those,
into the
right?
system, which causes
Exactly. Every
inflation.
single one of those has an impact on inflation, right? So if you only have one of those, and we had that from 2008, let's face it, till now, the Federal Reserve has been pumping money into the system, keeping interest rates low, and I think everybody in 2008, 2009, 2010 saying inflation is going to go through the roof, and it didn't, right? And so technology is part why inflation has been able to stay lower, right? And we all know that certain inflations, I mean, food always seems to go up no matter what, right?
Exactly.
Everything else seems to stay lower or go down in some cases. So the issue here is that, because of events that aren't really economic, right? In this case, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the government's causing a lot of this inflation. You ask your question. I know we don't want to. We never get to this, but you ask your question why, and certainly we know that when you owe so much money, right? When you owe trillions of dollars, inflation is good because the value of what you owe goes down.
Goes down.
So for the government, it's great. For everybody else, especially the senior citizens, it's terrible. And we talked about this in the car on the way here.
Before,
I mean, they're going to increase Social Security by 5.9%, right? Which you say, oh, that's great. But you look at the prices of food, of gasoline, everything that they need, of
Medicare,
gas.
some people are telling us Medicare is going to be up.
Medicare's, some of the Medicare, you look at, drugs, and meaning the insurance on your drugs, and Envision, and the supplemental, they were up like 20, 30%. Food's up,
So you sit there
15
and
to
as a
20%.
senior, you're saying, yes, I'm getting 5% more from
Exactly.
Social Security, but the things I buy, the things I need to survive are up even more than that.
Exactly.
And so it makes it a very difficult time.
So again, it's one of the elements that when you think of the retirement plan and financial planning, it's one of the key elements. And so from our perspective, you really have to push the limit of inflation and what the impact is at short times, in other words, for the next 2-3 years. And I don't think anybody expects inflation to be at 6-7% forever, right? I mean, that would be disastrous. Exactly, right? But even if it happens, even if it stays there for another year or 2 years, the impact on one's portfolio, one's life, and one's expenses is enormous. So you have to calculate that and make sure that you're ready for it. From an investment point of view, you're also ready for it. But your client recognizes that it's possible that instead of being able to retire at 63, we might have to wait till 65 because the expenses are too great, or you reduce your expenses. But again, it's one of those
things that you have to be ready to plan scenarios, not just the average.
That's
I think there's a lot of times there's a temptation to be, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a bunch of different simulations. They call it Monte Carlo because it's like the gambling.
That's right.
Where if you gamble a bunch of times, you figure out what the median is. But I'm going to run a bunch of simulations, and here's the average, and this is what your retirement's going to look like. When in reality, the one thing I can guarantee your retirement isn't going to look like is the average of all the possibilities.
Right. Exactly.
It's going to be one of them. So what you need to do is be able to at least plan and say, all right, what happens if this scenario happens? What happens if this inflation number, because let's face it, 2 years ago, if you had said, oh, inflation is going to hit 6%, people would have said, you're nuts.
Yeah, you're nuts. Exactly.
There's nothing out there that suggests it.
That's right.
But it would have behooved a lot of people to say, you know what, let me run that scenario and make sure I'm still okay. Like, do I need to make any changes? Might I need to make any changes if that happens? So that I can know that in a scenario that seems unlikely to me, but that would impact me very negatively, that I'm prepared for it. And
That's
so
right.
sometimes it's just thinking ahead and saying, you know what, let me not just go one level deep and use the average. Let me go 2 levels deep and say, well, what happens if A, B, or C happens?
Exactly.
And sometimes you'll be better off. If you run a scenario that says inflation stays extremely low, you might say, oh, I'm better off.
Exactly.
But sometimes in a scenario where it hits 6% and stays there for a little while.
Exactly. Better to be positively surprised than negatively surprised, right? It's always better to say, hey, you know what? You can retire next year.
Exactly.
As opposed to saying, hey, you got to hold on for another
If you
years.
plan for your money to last to 100 and then you find out, oh, it's actually going to last me to 115, you're in great shape because you'll be dead before it runs out. So
we assume, yeah.
You assume.
There are some people,
Some people may do
if you
that
drink the
level.
right stuff, you could last long.
It's true.
Right?
It's very true. Exactly. Oh, we have some, before we switch to our net, we're about to switch to our net segment. We already have some great comments here. Rosalia Trodaro from Miami is watching. She has her espresso.
Oh, there you are.
And she is watching us this morning. Thank you for watching the show, Rosalia. And then, of course, I think I saw at least another comment. Oh, Johan Torres says, saludos para Alex y Javier. You guys are the best. Great show week after week. Johan.
Gracias, Johan.
Muchas gracias for watching us today.
That's right.
Always appreciate Johan. He does a great service for the Latino community.
He's enormously
helping with
helpful to the
accounting
Hispanic community.
and business licenses and all that. He's a great person. And so we are definitely excited. Speaking of
let's hurry up.
enjoying, I know you can't wait.
I mean, I got something in front of me that's it's calling my name.
It is. It's been speaking to you ever since we started. So we were really excited to welcome to the show today Rob Campbell, the general manager, and Don Whitaker, cider maker at Castle Hill Cidery. Rob, Don, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you for bringing this with
Thank you.
us.
Absolutely. And we'll
Salud.
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 Oh, let's taste this. Oh, that is good.
That is good.
That is a beautiful way to start the morning.
It certainly is.
It's a little apple juice, you know.
I totally exactly. Absolutely. It's got all those vitamins.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect.
It's very good. Oh, that's fantastic. I know. So Nick, who set up the interview, and Michael, my other brother, they went by Castle Hill Cidery on Tuesday, and they were just saying how amazing it is, the products that you guys are creating there. I think there's one in particular that is new, I think called Levity, that you've been working on. So just wanted to start with tell us a little bit about yourselves and some of the things that you're excited about at Castle Hill.
Well, I mean, I think we all know that last year has been kind of hard for everyone. We've had to pivot how we do business a lot of ways. It kind of factors into the inflation talk you were talking about before, and just sourcing and all those different things. So, you know, to be perfectly candid, we were a little tired. We were kind of at that point where we were like, But you know what happens when something special comes along? And it actually reignites the embers of your passion. And so that's kind of what happened with Levity, is we hadn't done it in 4 years. I'll let Don talk about a little bit more about the details of it, but it's a special product to us. It's unique. We believe we're the only commercial cidery in the U.S. that actually makes this product. And what makes us unique is we actually make it in the ground. And I don't mean we just dig a hole and we throw a bunch of juice in, but we actually have.
It's that easy, right?
It's that easy. It's that easy.
Pour it into
exactly.
juice in a hole. What could be easier?
So we have giant terracotta pots, which are basically Cavalrys.
Yes.
We have 8 of those on the property, and so what this is it's a wild yeast ferment. So I don't know if you guys realize this, but around us, swirling in the air, is yeast. So
I did not know that.
yes, and so with our typical products, we actually introduce the yeast in a closed environment. With this, we put it into the ground, and the yeast just kind of flocks to it, and so it's totally uncontrolled. We don't add any additional things to it. We don't add any.
So you don't add any yeast?
Don't add any yeast.
It's native wild yeast that are in that environment. So we have this thing that we call the Cavalry field, and so the 8 Cavalry are buried. So basically, we took like something about the size of a backyard swimming pool, and excavated down approximately about 12 feet.
Okay.
Backfilled it with a little bit of stone to level up these vessels, these Cavalry, and then backfilled it again with stone, and once we put the juice into the Cavalry, we'll go out every day. We'll put cheesecloth over the opening so no critters or anything like that can fall in or get in. And we just let the yeast come in. And we just open it. And we're still experimenting with how many hours a day do we do that.
Okay.
So we're constantly at Castle Hill. And one of the exciting parts from challenges is quantifying quality. And so we have a quality that we know we want to get to, but sometimes it's just magic, kind of mainly hard work. And then other times we can actually quantify and kind of get a method and a procedure. So we're like working on that. And then again, through all of that, it's wild, it's spontaneous, and again, Mother Nature controls the whole thing. So we're constantly dealing with microclimates, with terroir. Those of you at home that know the rule, drink. If you hear me say terroir, so drink, everybody.
Terroir.
Terroir, and terroir means the microclimate around a specific geographic area, the geology, the mineralogy, the soil chemistry, the plants, the insects, beneficial and non-beneficial. All of these things go in this symbiosis, and then we just kind of really accentuate all of these processes working together, and it comes to fruition in this.
Right, and what I'll add on with that is just basically we believe in ground to glass is what we believe in. And so this is truly ground to glass. We use everything from the property. We actually do an ash wash, which is we take the linden trees, which is right next to it, and we burn the limbs. I couldn't think of that word, and we create an ash, and it's like a charcoal, and that's what we use to clean the inside of the Cavalry.
Okay.
Wow.
Before we actually coat it with beeswax, and the beeswax
that was going to be my question. I said terracotta. Doesn't it kind of like evaporate or escape?
Well, exactly. That was one of the things. So we taxed young C.J. Kingray with really going through the history of Cavalry and different fermentation techniques involved in that process. So we go back approximately 8,000 years. We're in the Republic of Georgia, and we're seeing how these guys and ladies did this. And we would find like a microfracture or something where we have some seepage. All of a sudden it's getting, this is not good. And so our first instinct was, we'll use space age polymers. We'll go to whatever, use the latest and greatest, and it just wouldn't bond. It would not be correct because again, that terracotta is breathing. You're in the geothermal gradient. There's all these factors. So we were able to, after a lot of outreach, got word back from the Republic of Georgia, and they said, beeswax. Stop trying to overcomplicate it. It's beeswax.
That's
so
right.
CJ found out that, by taking the linden tree limbs And again, it's I don't think it's any small mistake or happenstance that these Cavalry are right next to these linden trees. And in Europe, the linden tree is known to have different qualities, including being antibacterial, antiparasitic. And then charcoal, also by being an abrasive, will render those, if there is some little microscopic kind of thing, it's almost like diatomaceous earth. It'll just crush it and just get rid of it by friction.
Okay, gotcha.
So
That's
we're using
amazing.
the charcoal, the properties of the tree. We're actually using the friction, and we do that. And CJ does this amazing ash wash from the trees, from the linden branches, and then once that water has run completely clean, after about 5 or 6 cycles usually, then we use the beeswax that are from our apiary on site,
How do you like that?
and we line the inside of it. So that comes in as another layer because honey.
Is that
bees-
is that done by hand, the beeswax? Or
Basically, it's kind of brush. CJ
Okay.
figured out everything is on stick, so it's brush on stick, and to get down in there because these things are as tall as we are.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Some of them are 300 gallons, some of them are 80 gallons.
Wow.
So everything is on stick. So he's got brush on stick, cleaner on stick, pump on stick, everything on stick.
So we'll have cider on the stick, I bet.
We're working on that.
So I
Maybe in
have
winter.
another question though. So you mentioned, you leave the top open, right? I mean,
Yes.
but what happens when it rains? I mean, how do you get so that water doesn't get into the juice?
If it does, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, no, I didn't. I
So,
wasn't-
and if it is exactly.
but what if it pours for like 3 or 4 days? I mean, aren't you diluting it? I mean, I'm just curious how that
We do
works.
have tops for them.
We once we've decided that it's had enough yeast, and again, it's very arbitrary. We're basically giving ourselves about a week. But yeah, I mean, if we saw a rain pattern where it's going to flood for like a day or two, then maybe we would leave it open for a day. Because again, we get to experiment, and that's one of the greatest things about Castle Hill. Is it's a living system,
Right.
And so we come in and we figure out what we can do to promote this system, and then in turn it be good and whatnot for everyone. So if we found out that hey, if we just leave the cheesecloth on there for 2 days and it dilutes the process, well then next time we do it for 1 day.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot of trial and error, and we're still figuring it out. But yeah, we do have these stainless steel lids that once we decided that and we have no way to monitor that.
Right.
That's one thing we cannot quantify is the amount of the wild native yeast that are going into it. We just go, come on, we're working on songs to
Exactly.
coax them, trumpet, the camera.
Little rain dance,
exactly.
yeast dance.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's really a lot of trial and error.
I guess in a way, it's like when you think about growing grapes, right? I mean, if it rains for a week, that grape has a different texture, consistency, right, than one that has just a lot of sun. And so, just like in Europe, they say this is like especially in port wines, this is
They say this is a good season or
reserve.
this is not a good
That's
season.
right. So this is the same. I mean, maybe 1 year it's going to taste a little different than another year, and so I guess, like you said, it's in a way it's an experiment, but every single year is going to be slightly different, I suspect.
Exactly, and it's very interesting that you brought that up because in 2018 we had a lot of rain. We had over 72 inches that year. I think it was ended up being closer to almost 8 feet of rain in 2018. So we thought that was going to dilute our juice, dilute the product. It did not.
Interesting.
Yeah, it just moved. It brought out different qualities. So
We've got a question
Yes.
from a viewer. We've got Ian Glomsky from Vitae Spirits. He's asking, does the beeswax add any flavor or change the flavor to the cider by putting in there? Does it contribute?
I'm sure it does. It does, and it's negligible, and it should be very subtle at most. We're with the apiaries and with the honey, we're working on a Cider, which would be mead, except instead of using water and honey, we would use apple juice and honey. So we have something to really accentuate the honey and the beeswax.
100%.
But this is just, again, a throwback to the traditional methods. And if it imparts a little tiny bit of the local honey, then I mean, hey.
I know. Yeah, I think that's what he's thinking.
That's
Because he
even
makes his coffee liqueur in maple syrup barrels.
See?
Okay.
And he
Yes.
doesn't put any maple syrup, but it absorbs a little bit of the fat that the
Absolutely.
barrel had been coated with.
Yes.
So I think he's sort of thinking, do you
Yes.
get a little bit of that?
Yeah, and the
sense
alcohol
that
draws
permeates?
that out of the walls of the barrel. Yeah, barrel
Exactly.
maturation. Fun. We should take some of the levity and stick it into a barrel as well and see what happens. Maybe one that had maple bourbon in it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Ian will be calling you.
Exactly. Ian, they're going to give you a call.
Yeah.
Some of those barrels. So what makes this, how does the fact that you're making this in this new method, in the
Right.
Cavalry, change it from the taste of an apple cider made in a different way? What does it contribute? Does it have a stronger flavor? Does the yeast make it a little more, because I know this is like deliciously tangy.
Yes,
I'm like,
it is.
that the
Exactly.
yeast, is it would all apple cider taste this way? How does it sort of change it?
So again, kind of like what we were saying just a while ago, every year, any vintage is going to be different. And all of that is, regulated to, the climatic conditions of that year and what was going on.
I know you talked about grapes, and so the process of making cider is basically the same as fermenting grapes. So we ferment
Okay.
the same way that you take a grape, we take apples and we ferment it for a certain amount of time. So the difference between how, typically we would do this is we would introduce yeast into it, and we can control the flavors, we can control the pHs, we can control basically all the different things within the cider to make it taste a certain way or have a certain pH level or tanginess, tartness, however we want the cider to go. And this is basically whatever the ground yields to us. So it's a
Whatever
totally
nature
uncontrolled
wants.
Exactly.
process, which is totally amazing. So we don't really know. We can kind of guess, but we don't really know what's going to come out
No. And
when we
that's,
put it into the ground. And that's what is
Amazing.
That's the beauty of it. I
That's
guess,
the
yeah.
beauty of it.
Yes.
And I'll
That's what
bet you
makes it special.
every Cavalry probably produces a cider that's slightly different. 'Cause
Slightly
it's a different
different.
clay pot and a different location.
Exactly. And so, and then a lot of the tanginess is the apples that we use. So there's certain apples that can maintain characteristics, but even from one spot in the orchard to another, there are subtle differences in the same apple. So if, whether we go by, geography of where it's planted, if we go by vintage, which year, there's always going to be these little nuances that change a little bit. But so this had a Harrison apple, which is an amazing cider apple that's doing very well in Virginia. And then we had an orchard blend that probably had close to 10 different apple varieties in it. And we had our orchard, we had our orchard apples. And we didn't have quite enough to get where we wanted to in the Cavalry, so we called up another friend. We called up David Glaze at Glaze Orchard up in Winchester, and he had been wanting to experiment with some stuff. And we said, "Hey, have you got anything? We're thinking about throwing this in the ground." And he's like, "The Cavalry?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yes." And so he brought some stuff down, and we blended all that together. So this is the product of basically 2 Cavalry. And it just it opens it up so now it's like, okay, we just got juice from our orchard. And it's ready to go into the Cavalry as soon as we finish cleaning it. Haha, CJ.
CJ's
He's like,
what he's doing backstage
if anybody wants to
here.
learn the process, CJ, anywho. That's going to be going in the ground in probably in about a week. And we're going to be using Golden Russet, Dabinet, and Esopus Spitzenberg. So we're going to try a different blend. And that's all it is. Just keep trying it, and turn it around. Every single time is different.
And on this one, we're actually going to be in the ground for probably 5 months. So it'll actually stay in the ground until it's fully fermented. It'll actually be a slow ferment.
Yes.
Since we think it's going to be slower based upon the temperatures within the ground.
Because this one we did, typically we put the juice in the ground in fall. So somewhere around October, November when it starts cooling off. The geothermal gradient, again, we're about easily the top of where the cider would be is 21 inches below the frost line. So, you're below that. But we found this year, we went for it and we did a summer fermentation. it was way quicker than we thought it was going to be. We had, we had 300 gallons that fermented in 3 months. That was put in March, so it was ready in June. And then we had another 300 gallons that we put in June, and it was ready in July.
Wow.
Yes. And so we're like, whoa.
How did it taste? Did you taste it?
Oh, yeah, of course. You're tasting it right now.
So it's good. So then why wait all that time? I mean, let's just do it in the
That was
summer.
it. And we wanted to see, now, and it goes back to the thing of like, how consistent can we be? So it's like, okay, well, let's take one recipe. So like, just say if we were going to use the Harrison apple, well, let's do a summer ferment and then let's do a winter ferment and really check those two out. Because that would be the way.
That's
again, to
interesting.
quantify the quality.
Exactly. That's good.
out.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have a question. So when you fill up these, and you say
Cavalries.
do you fill them 3/4 all the way to the top?
We
How's that?
usually leave approximately 20% headspace.
Okay, for the fermentation?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because, and again, these things are egg-shaped. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're kind of, there's on the card, there's like a little drawing.
Oh, I see it. I see it. That's right. Okay.
Oh, yes, for the...
Yeah, look at there.
The
We have
drawing-
nice
the drawings
cards.
here,
Thank you, MJ. And and then a lot of people will say, well, what's the difference between Cavalry and Amphora exactly? Because some people may be familiar with one versus the other. The Cavalry are always buried. So when you put these terracotta vessels in the ground, they stay put until you absolutely just have to move them again. Amphora would refer to something that has handles and is portable.
Okay.
So again, going back to the oldest fermentation techniques and even storing olive oil and whatnot, people would have their Cavalry and then also have the Amphora and kind of move between the two.
It's amazing that here we are drinking cider made with basically an 8,000-year-old
Exactly.
technique.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But they knew a lot of things back then, right?
They did, but they made things, they understood
They had
certain
their
things.
priorities.
They had their priorities.
I like those.
Exactly.
I like those
They had very
priorities.
good priorities. So when people come to Tassel Hill, so they can experience this, and
Yes.
I hear from Nature Mito, it's a beautiful spot where people can just come, enjoy, learn a little bit, I guess, about the technique. You guys have a beautiful space out there.
We do, and so, I mean, there's two ways to actually get the levity. There's castlehillcider.com. So we, just like you were mentioning before, we actually ship to 38 states presently. And I think it's 40 states.
40, okay,
40.
you'll be tipsy by Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. I was missing 2 states. So we actually ship to 40 states. And then you can actually come on site and buy it from our taster room. But while you're out there, you can take a stroll out to the Cavalry. They're actually accessible. You can't get inside of them because we have them locked because we don't want people putting things into there.
Exactly. Well, you don't want people fermenting
Exactly.
just cider.
Yeah, we don't want nobody fermenting inside the Cavalries. And so, I mean, come out and see us. We'd love to tell you more about it and show you kind of the special things we're doing. But beyond just levity, we're doing a lot of really special ciders that have been coming out in the last couple weeks. So.
That's amazing.
Come on, see us.
We definitely have to go out there. I'm
tell me
jealous
about it,
that
that's right.
Nick and Mike went without us.
And I heard it's a beautiful spot, beautiful place to go.
Yeah, and then also kind of like to touch on what you were speaking about earlier with finances, and how crazy last year was. And, we ran into procurement issues and how do you do something that you've never had a problem with before and all of a sudden you can't get bottle caps, you can't get the glass, et cetera, et cetera. So suddenly this year we did, 7 ciders in 1 quarter because that's how things aligned.
Wow.
So we have, our flagship ciders, Terrestrial, Celestial, Levity, Serendipity, all of those are they're all available except for Serendipity. It's still in the tank. We're working on it. But then we have our ports, we have Palmos, and then we have craft ciders where we have fun and we start doing adjuncts like elderberry, cherry, hops.
That's right. And we actually have we have 600 acres, so you can spread out
Oh,
while you're
wow.
out there. There's plenty of acres to kind of spread out with your family, bring a blanket, bring a picnic. You mentioned CVille
Exactly.
Picnic. They've been out to our cidery. They
There
do
we
a
go. You
beautiful
can have
job
a
of setting
picnic.
things up. Yes.
On a
That's
beautiful
great.
location.
That's great.
Well, thank you both so much for
Thank you
joining.
for
This has
having
been
me.
a lot of fun.
This
You
is
did a lot of
Thank y'all
fans.
for having us.
We need to go there because I had so many other questions, but we'll have to
Oh
go
yeah,
there
I know. But
and
we'll just
chat
have to
with
have
these
you guys
guys.
back.
Come and,
Well, yeah, that's
come and see
another
us.
And maybe even we'll get Nick and we'll go out there and do a live stream from the cidery.
We would love that.
Exactly.
Thank you all for having us today.
And then we'll bring in the winter, the cold weather ferment. So we
There you
can all
go.
of
So we
that.
can
See?
compare them. Exactly.
Can't get rid of
Yes.
us.
We'll be there. Exactly. Thank you both so much.
Well, thank you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers, gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Salud.
So you'll see us. We're gonna do a little rotation.
Rotation, that's right.
Of guests from two fun guests to another awesome guest. We got some great fans watching us today. Red Weiss is giving us a thumbs up. Denny Campbell saying great show. Thank you for watching the show, gentlemen. And we've got
Cheers. Thank you.
that was a blast.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, I say this every time, and it's just the truth, right? Because reality sets in. Every time we have a entrepreneur, right? You talk to them. It's not just about the business. It's about the passion of what they do, and the creativity. And what I loved about this was, I mean, here you is an 8,000-year-old method to create apple cider, right? I mean, that's just amazing. Exactly. It really is. And then you taste it and you say, wow, this has like really terrific flavors, like you said, tanginess. I mean, it's great to talk to all these folks because you learn so much.
The magic of artisans,
yes.
that they're constantly experimenting, thinking of great things. Stephanie Devada watching the show says, hi, Rob, can't wait for CVille Picnic to come back out to Castle Hill. We can't wait either, Stephanie.
No, definitely.
We're looking forward to that. But this is the magic of artisans, that they can do so much, and there's a passion and constant experimentation.
And I like it because, you know me, I'm kind of like a little math guy, and I do finances. And then when I hear these guys, like, how did they come up with this?
It's the other side of the brain. And
it's like just the whole creativity. I mean, to do this, I mean, to do what they've done. I would have never thought, that's just too much work. Who wants to go through all that trouble to make apple cider? But wow, it's
amazing. It's amazing.
It is.
And from one creative artisan to another, we're really excited.
I haven't had the opportunity to taste
we need to take you to the alley.
Yes, absolutely. You guys have been there, and you keep telling me, but you never take me there.
We're excited to bring on Micah LeMon. He is the bar manager and mixologist at the Alley Light. And so, Micah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I should also say he's also the author of The Imbible, which I have been highly recommended.
Different drinks? Is that drinks that
a cocktail guide for beginning and home bartenders.
Home bartenders. I can do that.
The home part is very important.
The home part, I know.
Micah, you have some big fans on here because all three of us has been there, as well as my friend Kellen DeDarmo loves to go to the Alley Light, and he has sung your praises for a long time. So tell us a little bit about your story for those who don't know you, how you came to be at the Alley Light, how you came to go down this path of what you do.
I'm a very unlikely expert on cocktails because I grew up in a dry Pentecostal evangelical Christian home, and so I randomly got a job at a country club and ended up getting thrown behind like a banquet bar one night with my buddies, and all of us were, teetotaling kids, and we were mixing drinks, and it was just a really bizarre experience. And some of us are still like in the food and beverage industry just because it was such a strange experience. People were, drinking and dancing, and there's this whole culture of, imbibing that was totally foreign to us. And, when I tasted, the things that I was pouring for people, like it tasted gross and disgusting to me. And so I just kind of formed this question of like, how do you make this stuff delicious? Is it possible? And how can you do that and form a theoretical strategy for doing that? And, when I was asking those questions, there weren't a whole lot of good answers that, people were giving me. So I kind of tried to form my own strategy for, making a balanced cocktail. And that's kind of in my cocktail book. I talk about, cocktail's got three kind of necessary components. It's got a spirit base, needs a sweet component, a balancing component, something assertively bitter, acidic. And, I'm sure if you talk to cider makers or wine makers, there's kind of necessary components that you're trying to balance. You're trying to keep the alcohol in line with, the fruit or the sweet component and the tannins. So it's just kind of, making alcoholic beverages. It has moving parts that kind of, go across into cider and beer and wine and cocktails, and you're really just trying to kind of have all of your necessary components present, and then kind of balancing those things. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. That's very interesting. So when somebody comes to you, let's say they say, I want a brandy Alexander or something. Do you ever say, well, I got something better, or I have something different, or?
It's funny you should mention that because I have a cocktail in my book called a Kentucky Alexander.
Okay.
And it's Brandy Alexander has like ice cream in it, depending on, it's kind of a cocktail from like the 90s or the 80s, and
My time age, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I try to anchor. If I've got somebody who's, to charitably describe them as like kind of a square, and they ask me for something really square, like, I'm like, hey, I've got something that's going to be delicious. It's going to be very close to what you are wanting, but it's going to be just a little bit better. So that's kind of, at the end of the day, I want everybody to be happy and get what they want.
Yeah.
So,
do they say yes? I'll try it, or some people say no, I just want my Brandy Alexander.
Everybody's different. You try to make everybody happy.
Of course.
Sometimes people,
maybe after the first drink they're happy already, and you say, okay, you want to try that Kentucky?
Yeah, sometimes people dig in their heels and they know what they like, and that's totally fine.
Okay.
It's like, hey, if you're happy, like I'm happy. If you're unhappy, then
That's right. Well, let me try to make you happy.
Right.
And you try this, right?
I mean, one of the things we loved when we went is that you have the dealer's choice option at the alley line. And I remember Nicholas and Michael both said, just make us whatever you want. How do you approach that when someone says, I want something, with this spirit or something? How do you look a little bit at the person, or do you sort of have in your mind, like, here's what I'm just feeling today? How do you sort of approach that?
Right. Again, you want people to be happy, right? So you try to get some kind of like data from them, like, what kind of spirits do you like? Some people like, they don't like tequila or don't like whatever. Some people are vegan, or, they're allergic to, whatever. And obviously you don't give them the things that they hate or that will kill them. And so, you try to like take, some of the things that they tell you that they like, and then kind of like maybe just nudge them just a little bit and expose them to something that's, might be new or interesting for them. And the whole dealer's choice thing is also a really great way to kind of foster creativity with my staff, and really kind of involve them in our work, and kind of get them to be creative and make their own things, and
Do you have a dealer's choice? Is that what it's called, dealer's choice?
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice every day, or?
Oh yeah, so it's a thing on the menu. So
Okay.
So you can just order it.
Okay.
Yeah, you order it, and basically he makes
it's on the menu.
something.
So
like
give us an
it's
idea.
entirely his creativity.
So give us an idea as to what yesterday's dealer's choice, because I've never.
No, but it's different for every person.
Yeah.
Oh, for
So
every
when
person.
Nate and Mike ordered the dealer's choice, they got two different drinks.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Micah makes
Right.
it himself.
So you look at them, you say, that guy, he needs
Well,
that.
they tell me they like whiskey,
okay.
or they.
So did Michael say he like rum or something? Is that?
I forget what Michael said.
Okay.
Oh,
He said
they
nothing.
Michael said nothing. They were the hard
So
ones. They
they're
gave
the
you
hard
no
ones, that's right.
information.
So what do you like?
Do you remember what I made of them? Was that
Oh,
an ugly
Nick had
stick?
the paw,
Oh yeah.
and
So what's in the pawpaw?
Was it a colada, or was it? Oh, okay.
paw daiquiri. There
Yeah,
you go.
so that's in my book too. It's just a daiquiri with pawpaws in it. So pawpaws are like a really, it's a real weird fruit. It's a tropical fruit that's native to North America.
Okay.
Like Thomas Jefferson got down with them, and there's a big grove of them in Monticello.
Oh.
And so you have to go hunt for them, and they're real tricky to. There's a reason why you don't find them. That you have to get them when they have just fallen off the tree because they're ripe, and they're on the ground. You can't pick them off the tree.
Really? Wow.
And you have to get them before the critters get them.
Holy
So-
cow. So you gotta be out there every day watching them fall.
Right, so you kind of go within a window. So actually, Ian from Vitae told me, he took me, foraging, and he's like, "Here's how you do it." And so I got to give him a little credit for that. But sometimes some people grow pawpaws. There's a lady, really nice lady named Michelle, who like every year brings us like a crate of pawpaws because she has a tree, and so they're tropical fruit.
Is it sweet, tart? I mean,
It's kind of like a banana.
okay.
And
I would like that.
And it's a real weird fruit. It's in the same family as guanabana, or soursop.
Yep.
It's got these big seeds in it, and it's kind of difficult to work with. You have to kind of peel off the flesh and ream out the flesh, get the seeds out, and then you kind of make like a syrup or cordial with them. So
That's amazing. Yeah. So he
That really is.
Paul Daiquiri, and I forget what Mikey's was.
What was yours? Oh, you didn't do
I
that.
order, I'm the guy who orders off the. Well, to be fair, the drink menu does change at the hour, like over
Yeah,
time. Because sometimes there'll be different ones than there were the time before. So I ordered. The first time I had gone, I ordered that fantastic, the one that's called the coffee.
coffee cocktail.
The coffee cocktail, even though there's no coffee in it.
Right.
But it tastes like it's just the combination of things.
So what's
you
in
put
that?
into it.
I mean, to make this like
Yeah,
coffee.
well, it's kind of called the coffee cocktail because it looks like a coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a real old school classic cocktail. It's got some cognac and tawny port shaken with a whole egg and just a little bit of sugar.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That sounds interesting.
It was delicious.
I like the
It was
cognac
like
part, especially.
the cognac
Yeah.
and the tawny part drew me to it.
yeah.
Because they just have, and it's just such a great atmosphere. How did you end up at the Alley Light? What drew you there?
So I was working I was unhappily employed at a place that shall remain nameless, and I was looking for a new gig, and a buddy of mine mentioned, hey, Will Ritchie, who's guy who's opened a bunch of restaurants around town, he's looking to open a cocktail bar, and you should go talk to him. So I talked to Will, and he's like, okay, let's do it. So that was in 2014, kind of the winter of 2014. We opened in February that year. And I was really fortunate because kind of the real attraction of the Alley Light was the chef, Jose de Brito. And he had kind of a big following because of his restaurant, Ciboulette. I don't know if you guys...
I'm not sure we had moved here when he had that.
It was in like the early 2000s, early 2000s, I think, or late 90s.
Yeah, we were here.
And anyways, so we had kind of like an American cocktail bar and then kind of a French small plates kind of aspect to our concept, as well as like an old world wine list. And we got a lot of really great press because of Jose's food, and I was just kind of lucky enough to be around and kind of got anointed cocktail guy. And then, I was approached by UVA Press in the following year to write this book. And so, things have just kind of, I've just been lucky to be in the right place at the right time,
No, and also with your what you really enjoy doing what you do, because you have then the experimental quality of it, I think, is what sort of at least attracted me in the Alley Light, and that there's interesting cocktails on that menu, and just the concept of going there and letting someone be creative with what you're about to experience.
Yeah. There's a certain talent and creativity that goes with that, right? Because somebody came to me and said, just create something. I wouldn't even know where to start, right? But if you tell me, do this, you go to a book, you go, okay, I got it, right? So that's great.
You mentioned you're a math guy. I think, not to give you a hard sell on my book or anything, but like, the whole idea behind the book is like, you've got necessary components. I introduce a basic recipe, and provided that like the math of a basic recipe, you just kind of plug in things, and it's, it's kind of like one of your financial simulations, except with booze.
There we go.
Yeah.
See,
Wow.
even you can learn from.
This is
being
great. Wait a
Bible.
minute. On a daily basis, I can just start thinking about that a little bit more.
Yeah, and you also might like it because the core recipe for shaken cocktails that I work off is a daiquiri. So.
I love daiquiris.
As Cuban.
Oh, I love
That'll
daiquiris.
go for you.
Daiquiris, we used to say.
Daiquiri.
My father used to say, you want a daiquiri today? Sure.
So how do you do it?
I don't remember. I don't know. I'm not good at memorizing things of that sort.
Okay.
I just always go back to the book. But I know it's got rum, right?
Right.
So I'm a rum guy. I love rum.
Okay.
Actually, there's a lot of things I like, I have to admit. So I love cognac. I like rum. But and I like some bitters. As I got older, I've tended more to the bitter side. Like I don't know if you're familiar with Cynar or Amato.
Oh, yeah.
They're-
Yes.
yeah, so
There
I
was
like that.
there was a Cynar drink that was on the.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's still on the menu.
Yeah, it's probably the Chinar Flip, another
Yes.
whole egg cocktail.
Chinar's Flip.
Yeah.
It was also delicious.
Wow, I got to go
On the
there.
top
Man,
ten.
it's
Yes,
gotta be-
no,
it's
you-
got to be a whole bunch of things. Somebody else got to drive that day.
Somebody else will drive that day. This way you can enjoy it. Not Nate is refusing to drive that day. So I guess your process then is somewhat analytical in some ways, that you're trying to figure out what's the proper balance of doing something despite the ingredients that you might use in it.
Yeah, I mean, you're just kind of working. I mean, so making fancy cocktails is it's a lot like cooking. You know, you've got some basic technical skills that you need, and then you've got a basic recipe that you're working off of. And, you know, you're just kind of trying to, you know, work off a basic recipe and then kind of look at the flavors that you want to work with and kind of try to fit them together. So I guess, for example, we've got, we just launched our fall menu, and we've got a seasonal cocktail. So I really like working with, you know, seasonal ingredients, especially ingredients that are specific to this area. So I grow and I forage hardy oranges, and I make marmalade out of them. And so, like, you know, I was like, well, how can I incorporate hardy oranges into a cocktail? And, you know, this is a classic cocktail called the Pegu Club, which is basically like broad strokes are like gin, orange, and citrus. So I just put the orange in for like the orange marmalade in for the orange liqueur, and just kind of, you know, it's really not that complicated. You just have to, like, you know, work off a basic recipe and kind of plug your ingredients in a way that just makes some sense.
It's interesting you say that, because you say it's not complicated, but it's just like my wife loves, you know, I say she loves to cook. I'm not sure she loves to cook, but she's a great cook.
I think she does. She enjoys the process.
And sometimes she'll come home and she'll make this meal and say, oh, man, you know, where'd you get this recipe? You know, I just thought it up. But it's because all the history that she has, right? She's able to put the
techniques are
exactly,
there,
as you mentioned, the basic
knowledge.
techniques are there. She knows how to, you know, mingle the different flavors, and it's that. So, you know, there's an experience that goes to that, and there's also the creativity that goes in that, because, you know, some people just have creativity, and some people just don't.
Yeah. Exactly, and I love the fact that you use a lot of natural ingredients and things you've made yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, not too many places you go inside. Yeah, the guy making my cocktail made the orange marmalade that's going into my cocktail.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we first launched our bar program, you know, you can walk in any bar and, like, they've got whiskey and they've got bitters and they've got, you know, sugar. So, like, I was just like, well, let's make some weird stuff that you can't get anywhere else, and you know, let's make it from things that are from here. So, like, anytime you see our seasonal list, usually it has, you know, some combination of things that are seasonally available or locally, specifically available locally seasonally. So again, our fall menu, we've got some hardy oranges, we've got some elderberries that we get from an organic farmer in Afton. We've also got some local cider that we use in kind of like a cider gimlet with some, like, herbs. Yeah, so a big part of our work is, you know, trying to create for, you know, our customers a sense of time and place, and, you know, kind of terroir. It's kind of what your previous guests were saying.
Terroir in a different way.
Yes,
which we drink too.
Yeah. So.
Exactly.
Oh, you have a big fan. You've got Amanda LeMon.
Oh, my wife.
Says the hearty handshake. I figured.
As a big fan.
I kind of guessed. That's probably the big fan. Says the hearty handshake is the best.
Yeah, it's a yummy cocktail, and she's.
Oh, what is that? Wait a minute. What is that? That sounds
The
good.
hearty handshake.
Yeah, so that's one of those cocktails I mentioned that's on our seasonal list. It's kind of that retooled classic cocktail, but with hardy orange marmalade and just a little bit of passion fruit, some citrusy gin, and some citrus. So.
And that is, so you should definitely check it out. 'Cause, I mean, if your wife is saying it's the best, it's got to be good.
And she's my best critic, because if it's not good, she will tell me. Yeah.
She's not shy, in other words.
You know, if I get any response from her other than, oh, that's good, like, I know that I need to rework it. So that's kind of nice.
That is awesome. And people can find the Alley Light. I know the Alley Light is not. You looked it up when you go there. It literally is in an alley.
In an alley.
And there's a little light above the door, and you got to take the plunge and go in, and it's a beautiful space inside. And so people can definitely find it on the downtown mall.
Yeah.
It was the alleylight.com.
Yes, I think it's alleylight.com.
Alleylight.com.
And then we're on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram at The Alley Light.
The Alley Light on Facebook and Instagram. Clay Tolbert says he's being very modest about foraging hardy oranges. Anybody who's done that knows it's a feat. You look like you came out of a street fight after.
That's true. Actually, Clay was there for a prep day when I wrestled. So I have a hardy orange tree, and it's got big thorns on it. And when you go pick the fruit, like, it'll get you.
Oh, wow.
And so like
Interesting.
I was like, Clay, I'll be right back. I got to go pick the oranges. And I came back, and I was kind of bloody. And he's like, are you okay? But yeah, it's funny. Clay is also he worked with me and helped us kind of work with spruce. So he and I went out and foraged a bunch of spruce. His uncle has a connection to, a kind of land where there's a bunch of spruce. We went out and foraged a bunch of spruce tips, and then kind of infused some gin, and then made a cocktail with that. That was on our previous menu. But yeah, shout out to Clay.
Yeah, thanks for watching, Clay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Micah, this has been so much, so educational. I didn't know all that went into this, and just a joy to have you on.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me. You got it.
Absolutely. And so, be sure to check out the Alley Light and Michael LeMon.
The book.
This man is making serious sacrifices for you.
And if you
He's
wanna
getting
learn-
bloodied up to make you incredible cocktails.
That's right, exactly.
And be sure to check out his book, The Imbible. I'm sure you can find it Amazon and
Yeah. Thank you.
all
Probably
the usual places.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Terrific.
coming on, Mike.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Okay.
And so I think just a couple announcements I think we have.
Oh, you have a couple announcements?
We
Okay.
do. We have some fun things
I've
for you
had so
to
much
do.
fun. I don't know what to
know,
say.
yeah,
I mean, it's just
what-
I got these dreams of
What-
all these drinks. I wanna
Exactly.
have. It's
You have all these places
do I
you have to
Do
go.
I have a life long enough to get them all, to drink them all?
We've been reminding our audience that the Envision block
That's right.
party is tonight. So it
That's
is
right,
tonight.
exactly.
From 5 to 8 p.m. at It's Art Park. It's there to support United Way of Greater Charlottesville. Gonna have some great groups there. Sombreros is
gonna
gonna
be
be
there.
there.
That's
Mexican
right.
cuisine, Pearl Island is gonna be there. There's a lot of food vendors, some great ones from Charlottesville. 2 bands. One of them was
wow.
like Elise Underwood and Friends. It's like a jazzy band. She plays like
Perfect.
a bass. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to check it out. It's free to go.
That's right.
It's free to go. You can have a great time. And then on next week's show, we're going to have Sheila Jordan from MED, I should say, from Prosper Parenting.
Okay.
So here, and then the following week, we've also got some more Latina power. We've got Carolina de Hierro Obando from Carolina Obando Beauty, as well as CVille Picnic's going to be joining us again.
Okay.
So it's going to be, we got a lot of fun, and don't keep on your calendars. Get ready for some Latina roundtable in November. So we got some great Latina professionals and entrepreneurs here that'll join us on the show.
That should be fun.
So we got a lot in store for you today. Mañana, be sure to check out the event this evening at It's Art Park. Be sure to check out the Alley Light. Be sure this weekend to know if it's a beautiful weekend. You can go to Tassel Hill Cidery and enjoy just
This is the time of year,
This
too,
is the
right?
time of year. This is the time of year. The fall, you'll be surrounded by. You can check out the Cavalry, see what it looks like, and enjoy levity and the other amazing ciders that they have there. Have some levity in your life.
That's right. Levity in your life. I
Little
like
levity
that.
in
I
your
like
life.
that.
That's a good one. But as always, we always love being with you on the show, Papa. It's always a blast.
Well,
We
thank
have
you so
some
much. I
great-
enjoy being with you too.
We have some great. I'll just want to do a quick thank you here. Rosalia, thank you so much for donating to the fund for Charlie Ann. Really appreciate that. So we just be sure to check that out. They just put it in all the feeds. Rosalia Torado, thank you so much. You're a blessing. And
Cheers.
so just participated in that. We have the best audience
We certainly do. Yeah.
in the
We
world.
just love them all.
Love them all. Love
yes.
them all. Love them all. And just really appreciate being here on the I Love CVille set. Thanks to Judah behind the camera, really
Well,
making
we can't
all
thank
this
him too
work.
much. He kind of flipped this thing around.
He flipped us.
He threw a
He flipped
curveball
us
at us.
today.
So
He
I'm
would
not going to
do-
thank him all that much
That's
yet.
his way of having a little fun. He's
Okay,
like,
all
what
right,
do
all
I
right.
do
Well, you can
today?
thank him then.
Oh, I'm going to switch at Xavier and Alex. I'm going to see if they can
You
handle
should see
being
how he
an
did it. He
opposite-
did it so quietly. I'm going to put you over there.
Exactly.
Like,
Everyone
okay.
excited. I just love being here. Love our sponsors. Really just appreciate that this is put together. Emergent Financial Services, Vitae Spirits, CVille Picnic, GBS Financial Services. That's our friend Johan Torres.
That's right.
And Cristel Noel State Farm Agency. And we love partnering with Forward Adelante, Latino networking group here in Charlottesville. Love being on the set. And really appreciate you, our audience, without whom this is not possible.
That's right.
So thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to like and share. Please check out the links we have in the comments to support our friend Andre Xavier and his wife Charlie Ann. And just be sure to join us next week, and we'll have more exciting guests for you and more exciting topics. So just thank you all again, and until we see you next time, hasta mañana.